but I've had to turn to everyone and say, look, what I'm about to teach you is an equal opportunity offender. Because I teach them about evolution and the science of human nature so they can predict the future more accurately. Because it turns out human beings are really boring, right? And the beauty of boring is you bake that into your strategic planning, your marketing planning, your investment planning, all those plans become more durable and more sustainable. Like people aren't going to change anytime soon for certain characteristics, right? So that at least you know the knowable future. But because I actually have to tell people that biology exists, a healthy portion of my audiences get offended by that. So offended, one in Vegas is trying to get me fired right now as we speak. So the what I've had to do is ask for a hands commitment in the air that I will be unoffendable for the duration of this presentation, and I don't start speaking until all the hands go up in the air. I say, okay, now I'm going to do my best to
Yeah.
offend everybody in the room. I mean, this is
See,
ridiculous. I
see,
have to do that, but
that's the difference. That's the difference between what you and I do because when I don't see who I'm talking to on television, I know I offend a lot of the audience, but it's not on purpose. It's just this is my perspective and analysis. But yeah, I agree. Um, and you would have a different perspective being in those rooms with the CEOs of 4,200 of them. But I just feel that it's what we're seeing now is being driven the offended population. I do feel it's being driven from the younger generations of Americans, and I worry about that. I do. I have two small children, two young children. They're 11 and 8. Um, I want them to be. Remember, my first word when we started this podcast was tolerance. I want my kids to be resilient, and resilient is part of being resilient is you have to be tolerant of other people's perspectives. You know, I normally wouldn't speak to a Jets fan. I'm kidding. No, I'm saying you have to be resilient in life by being able to say not everyone. I know we talk a lot about books. I'm very much into stoicism, and it's almost like you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, I'm going to meet rude people. I'm going to work with clients that are pains in the ass. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to encounter all of these uncomfortable moments,
yeah,
but I have to go through it because
yeah,
that's human existence. And I can't be offended. I would add, I mean, some of the Stoics wrote 2,000 years ago. I can't be offended at everything that is said. I actually have to be able to say whether it's across a business discussion in a boardroom somewhere. Uh, I have to be able to say, okay, look, that's their perspective.
yep,
But if the more offended we get, whether it's politics or in a classroom, talk about a threat to not just democracy but commerce.
absolutely.
Okay, you got to be able to do business with folks. If you're looking at the commerce side, at the economic side, you have to be able to do business with folks that you don't necessarily agree with. And in politics, hell, that's the name of the game. You're compromising at every single turn, whether you're voting like my city commissioners over here are voting on whether or not to approve the construction of a new police department, or hey, should we put a stop sign on the corner? Or in Congress, whether or not they're going to do something about our crisis at the border or Ukrainian and Israeli funding. So
Well,
there's a lot that goes into it.
all right. So let me add some fuel to the fire there, and this is going to be a little controversial. All right, what I'm noticing out there in the trends is not just young people. Well, first of all, millennials seem to like this a lot better than Gen Z. Gen Z's dealt too much too long with the negativity of it. Maybe they've even been exposed to the negativity side for themselves, so they really don't like it. What who seem to really like it are the millennials. So they're starting to creep into my world. They're becoming CEOs. Now in my world, the way things break down is it's probably 80 to 90% male. You know, men are willing to work like maniacs for money. Women don't seem to gravitate towards that as much. So the whole concept that there's some barrier out there protecting, blocking women from these positions is not actually correct. Not it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. In fact, that's going to be a book that we're gonna definitely tackle. Although I do have to warn you, if you haven't gotten yelled at by the White House yet, you're gonna be after that one. So and that I know they do call
Well,
you, and I
and
know they get upset with you. The idea though is we
I
can't we
actually,
can't murder truth. You know.
and I actually am, I checked, I had to verify this, but I actually am a millennial, believe it or not, because depending upon when you say it started, The generation started. I was born in September of '82, so I technically qualify as a millennial. Um, and yes, I do receive calls from folks in Washington. Look, controversial conversation should be welcome. I mean, everything that's discussed coming out of the White House is controversial.
Yeah.
Um, but millennials
There's
are
one
what,
thing
the
though.
middle agers.
The okay, so by my definition, so I wrote a book on this. My first one's called Meta Trends in the Next Economy. So I moved the start of Gen X to to reflect the dearth, because it was really originally it was called the Forgotten Generation, and it starts with the advent of the ubiquity of the pill and legalized abortion. So that ended up making sure that a lot of people weren't born. So right after the baby boom peaks in 1962 and it troughs in 74. So you're definitely a millennial. The difference, though, I do have to give you a compliment about that. And I'm not trying to beat up millennials here. It's just you don't tend to think like a millennial. You're like more like an extension of the boomers and at least based on my
The
opinion, the
elders.
conversations we've had so
Yeah,
far.
because I kind of share characteristics of both, and I was
Yeah.
also born to. I was born. What? Wait, my parents. I don't. My mom doesn't want me to say her age, but hypothetically, if they were born in the mid '50s, uh, that would make them still boomers because boomers used to have went to 62 ish.
62, yeah. And
Yes.
I changed the definition of it mainly because, when demographers decide on what to name a generation, it never sticks. So whatever happens later on to them when they come of age, that's why millennials are called millennials, because they came of age at the millennial.